What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Koppai Podcast, a Nintendo show, episode 61. I am one of your hosts, Caster Risk, joined alongside Mr. Koppai himself, Zach Risk.
It's me, Zach.
That doesn't work. In case you're new here, we are an all Nintendo podcast that posts each and every week on Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific time on youtube.com/Koppai Gaming, as well as SoundCloud, iTunes, and also Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, and other various podcast services. Koppai Podcast. Actually, I think it's 9 a.m. Central Time. So what would that be? 7 a.m. Pacific Time? Yeah. Each week we discuss the games we're playing, the news of the Nintendo pipeline, and then a topic of the show. And today's topic of the show is Super Mario Odyssey as our game of the show. E3 2017. So we're going to be talking about our thoughts on it. We had an E3 reactions episode go up as a special episode on Tuesday, right after the E3 showcase of Nintendo. And so if you want to check out our reactions on Metroid, on Yoshi, Kirby, all of that, be sure to check that episode out because we won't be talking about it here. But that's a full hour and an hour and a half or so of discussion on E3 as a whole. And we actually don't talk about Mario too much there because we're talking about it here today. And so we're going to be talking about that. And if you like all of that, be sure to leave us a review if you're listening on iTunes or something. Click that 5-star button, write something about us if you like us. Or you can click that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, and the like button, and the bell on YouTube to be notified of when we post and get us in your subscription feed. So, Zach.
Yeah.
E3's over.
Yeah, it is over, unfortunately.
We've had all the conferences. We've had all of the gameplay demos. We've had all of the coverage. IGN did a great job this week. They had lots. I think at one point they had 53 videos in one day. I'm very surprised at how well Ubisoft did, and or not Ubisoft, but PlayStation did and Nintendo did at making sure all of their live content was spliced up and put on different YouTube channels. I think it was some of the best production of E3 that we've ever had. As far as if you wanted to watch stuff, it was easy to find it. It was up right away. It was great to have it all. So
yeah, there was minimal technical issues. Difficulties, issues. Yeah. I was trying to go difficulties and issues in the same word.
Yeah,
but
didn't work.
It just seemed to really go off without a hitch for the most part. There was less cringy moments in this E3 than I think to find if you wanted to make a compilation. It just seemed that
pretty much EA,
a lot of things.
EA was covered all of it at the beginning, and then moving forward, it was all right.
Sony
did have the big thing of no audio for the first 3 demos. That was terrible.
Well, no, I think that was IGN's end. I really do, because when I went to other outlets, it was totally fine. So there was certain places where it was, because then I went back and rewatched those, because that's when we kind of got out of sync and stuff. And I forget which game it was that I caught up on, but it was some really crap. Maybe the new Marvel versus Capcom game.
Yeah, that looks terrible. I don't know. That's so sad. I was really, really hyped for that. We were playing Street Fighter. We're excited about kind of getting into some fighting games. We'll talk about ARMS a little bit today. I've kind of wanted to maybe get into some other fighting games besides Smash Bros. And Marvel versus Capcom was going to be one of those, and it looks just straight crap. And there was a thing this week, someone tweeted out a really, actually, kind of a, humbling tweet of okay, be careful when you go into E3 and people are like, man, this game sucks, why are we watching this? Because some people are really putting their butts into this stuff where they're really working hard. And as someone that you and I produce content, as someone that does that, and it kind of sucks to put something out there. And just when we first did our Smash Bros video, the first comment was this is crap or something. That's probably hard to hear. But some things like this, I wonder what part of it is some producer guy hey, we need this out by the time the Avengers movie comes out, and it's just we need it out by the time the Marvel hype is going on so we can get some extra sales, and that kind of stuff sucks because they're probably talented developers and they're just
well, honestly, I was thinking when I was first kind of seeing it and was thinking about skipping over it, seemed sort of like a DC Universe sort of game, in that kind of vein. It seemed almost MMO-ish, open world fighting people. It didn't seem like a traditional fighting game. I would, when I realized it was Marvel versus Capcom, I was like, what? That was what that was? Because it really didn't seem anything like a traditional fighting game. It seemed maybe I mean, I could see it possibly being a Smash type of thing or Battle Royale or something, but I always thought those games were more traditional fighting games, and then to see it like that, I was really kind of thrown off by it. But I also didn't like stick around for the entire trailer, so I was a little confused and thrown off by that. But yeah, I forgot kind of what got us on Marvel.
I think we were just talking about the technical difficulties. Sony had some stuff that we missed out on. Yeah, no, great E3 though. I mean, as I said, we have our E3 reactions up, but it was an awesome week after. Because technically, people always say Sony ends or Nintendo ends on Tuesday morning. They're like, man, that was a great E3. But really, that's technically the start of E3 is that day that we recorded and kind of had our reactions to E3. Really, the main conference and the behind closed doors demos start that day. And we actually, as far as I know, didn't get too many more details beyond what we reacted to. Besides, we have some stuff in the Nintendo pipeline that we'll talk about. But no other crazy announcements. Nothing surprise at the invitationals or anything, or in the treehouse. There's just the initial reaction or announcement of the Metroid 3DS game, but beyond that, it was a pretty tame.
I think that was just seemed also kind of like a ploy to get people to watch the treehouse. Like Reggie kind of teased that in that previous interview with Jeff, and it was just like, watch a little bit of the treehouse and also to get a little bit of 3DS news out there and stuff to get that push, because they had to focus mainly on the Switch throughout their E3 presentation because it's a brand new console. So it
was perfect. They handled it all great. And the treehouse was good, was way less cringy than it has been in the past. That one girl, who is she? It's like Samantha or something. Samantha, if you're listening. Sam, I guess. I think her Twitter handle is Samantha, though. But Sam, if you're listening, you and Bill, maybe you're sitting at your lunch break listening to us. You have the most, what is it? What's that term? For the calming sounds? She has this voice. Yeah, that's just it's crazy because it's E3 and it's hustle and bustle and your heart's beating so fast. Oh man, there's so many new trailers and games. And then she just comes on and she's like, hey guys, welcome back to the Nintendo Treehouse. And today we're going to be looking at Mario. Hey guys. And it's just it's the most calming thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just such a jaunting, whoa, we're in a completely different mode now. And she just has the most, you could imagine her doing her own podcast of just the quietest.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, they did great. It's kind of weird. It seems like a lot of the traditional people are gone, and there's a new batch at the treehouse, and so they did great though.
Yeah, definitely. I was seeing a lot of people have been saying this was kind of a disappointing E3, and that mostly I've been seeing except for Nintendo, it's been for the most part, and Spider-Man was a little underwhelming for a lot of folks.
Yeah, super underwhelming for me.
And so Nintendo's really the only one that kind of stood out. So they kind of, I even felt that on, I think it was Monday night after Sony's conference, that it's basically in Nintendo's court now. The ball's in their hands, because I felt like they kind of were handed the show. They didn't even really have to do it. They could have done another Zelda sort of just exclusive Odyssey thing, and it probably would have really had an easy contendership for winning the show, just because it was that really kind of lackluster from the other people, I felt. But Nintendo knocked it out of the park with 3 bullseyes, so really
real quick, I guess because we didn't talk about it in our reactions on Tuesday, but we can maybe comment real quick on the other shows. EA rocked the Star Wars Battlefront stuff, but I could have done I would have rather had a direct a Nintendo Direct of Star Wars Battlefront 2. That was such an awesome trailer. They showed off and really won me over on the game. I was already gonna get it, but they got me hyped for it. Man, this is gonna be an insane Star Wars game. They showed it off perfectly, but I still am excited to see the new eras and all that. Microsoft, even though, and a lot of people are criticizing Microsoft because I think a lot of people would agree that they really failed to sell people on the Xbox One X. It's still kind of that whole thing of why does this exist? But for me, going into the conference just focused completely on the games and the services of everything, I noticed that I think every single game is tied to Windows 10 in some way. And just for me, who plays on my computer and has a Windows 10 computer, the whole time I was like, this is awesome. Look, this game's coming to Windows. This game's coming to Windows. They rocked the game side of it. And then, Sony we talked about just a little bit ago.
Well, and
Oh, go
with the
ahead.
whole One X thing, I think that it is a valid point though that it's $500 compared to like how much did you spend on your PC? You know, it's like for those who want to jump into a really high premium gaming experience for half the price of what it would cost to get like
Yeah.
a really deluxe PC. I think maybe they should have stressed that more. Maybe they didn't do an
Yeah.
effective like because I do think that's a real positive that will get people thinking about the Xbox One X, but I'm not sure if they made it enough of a focus that like
Yeah.
this is a really the price point is actually amazing for what this system is. It
Yeah.
may seem high compared to 249 for the One S, but I just think that it's pretty cool, and I I kind of consider it a little bit, thinking like what am I going to upgrade to next? There's the whole PS4 Pro, that just
I think that's
the
where I'm going.
premium 4K kind of next gen gaming experience of the super high end Xbox One Sony thing is like it's kind of tempting compared to a $1,200
Yeah,
gaming
definitely.
PC or something.
Yeah, mine
It's
was
'cause-
$1,200, and that's with like a 200 gigabyte solid state drive. Like that's where I actually really saved a lot of money. Was pretty much getting no hard drive with it. Like saved me like 100 or $200. Because then I have like a terabyte or so external that I use. But yeah, so that's how I was able to get it for 1,200. And I need to look up like how many teraflops it has as like for comparison to the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. But it must be pretty powerful. So
yeah, I think they say it's the most powerful. I bet it's more powerful than the PS4 Pro and everything.
yeah, no, it's
but just the thing
it's
is-
6 teraflops, and the PS4 Pro is 4 teraflops. And for those of you that don't know what a teraflop is, it's essentially like kind of a measuring unit of overall power. Where it gets confusing is you can have a 6 teraflop console or a 6 teraflop unit alongside something else that's measures in at about 6 teraflops. But sometimes you have GPU power that's pulling the console, and sometimes you have CPU power. And so with an example like Destiny 2, which I've been following a lot because I love Destiny 2 cannot handle 60 frames per second and 4K. And actually, I don't think can handle 60 frames per second and 1080 on both Scorpio and PlayStation 4 Pro because of its lacking in the CPU side. And so that's why they're kind of throwing around more so 4K, because 4K is apparently easier to do than bumping up frames per second. It's easier to kind of handle that with the way these consoles are being manufactured. And so there's lots of technical stuff. I mean, I'm sorry for those of you that are listening to this Nintendo show and you're like, blah, 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 blah. But that's just kind of some stuff for there. We actually have a quote from Reggie on kind of all this tech stuff later in the Nintendo pipeline. But no, I think yeah, it was a hard show for Microsoft, because it's like, do we spend the whole time trying to sell this console, or do we spend the time talking about games, but then we have a new console that we don't really talk about? What do we do? Fortunately, Nintendo got the Switch out of the way, so now it was just games for the Switch. And even crazier, like this is the craziest thing about Nintendo, is I see a lot of complaints about Nintendo and all of E3 this year in general, maybe besides Bethesda, is there's a lot of complaints that everyone was showing 2018 games. Like, here's a game that's coming out, like, in 2019. Here's a 2020 game, or here's, a game that's just started in development. And Nintendo is guilty of it too. Or it's like, hey, here's Kirby, Yoshi, Metroid. None of the games we can play this year. But Nintendo's already announced the games that are coming out this year. Unlike these other, like, take, for example, and this isn't like a console or anything, but take, for example, Sony. What exactly am I playing on my Sony console this year? The Uncharted spin-off and all the third-party games. Like, granted, the third-party games are awesome, but what am I playing specifically with Sony? Because all they talked about was 2018, and then they didn't really announce anything new for 2017.
PSVR.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got your VR unit. I need to get one of those. But
Skyrim coming.
I'm hearing some complaints about the Skyrim.
Oh, what's that? Huh?
I hear it looks pretty crap on there, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, everything looks not. I mean, it is kind of the early stages of VR, so I wasn't expecting to be a high fidelity HD special.
You look
edition.
down at your hands and you're just like, oh my
I was kind of expecting it might be more along the lines of like the original console versions, but in VR. And I'm willing to do that for the immersion of just I love Skyrim so much. So
the other thing I have heard, and we're talking about so much else besides Nintendo, but it's whatever. The other thing I have heard is like when you play a game, say for example you're playing Skyrim, you hit the right trigger, you swing your sword, you hit the person, say they put up their shield, you hit their shield and you bounce back and you have some recoil. Well, how do you do that in VR? If you swing your sword in VR and you move your PlayStation Move controller and you hit someone in the head, your sword doesn't stop when it hits their head. Your hand keeps moving, so your sword goes right through their head. And so you have this weird
I won't be using Move.
Oh, yeah, I guess
because I want to use smooth locomotion, and I guess with the moves you have to use like the teleportation and all that crap, and I'm not really even one for like the motion gimmicks anyway. So I'm just gonna be playing classical Skyrim.
Oh, that probably will fix it then, maybe.
My PS4 controller, my DualShock, and I'll have the headset on, just be looking around and seeing it all in 3D, which is what I'm most excited for. Is just kind of having the world tuned out, being immersed in 3D space, seeing Skyrim and that new, the dragon in full 3D up in my face kind of thing. That'll be really awesome.
There were some moments playing Skyrim, and this is applicable or relatable, or what is it? What's the word? Relevant to Nintendo Switch owners, because you'll be getting it maybe some of you will be getting your hands on it for the first time this year. That feeling of like the first time you have a dragon breathing fire on you and you put your shield up, and like the flames are going around your shield, and like you can see the heat waves going up. Like, it's a little unfortunate that by the end of the game, it's both a pro and a con. By the end of the game, you're slaying dragons, just by farting on them. Like, you're just the most powerful dragon god in the world. But at first, man, they make it so you're just like, a dragon comes by and you're sprinting for the hills. Like, you got to get out of there because the dragon's coming on down. So,
and what's really cool is for people that have played it already too, like me. I played it kind of around when it first came out, and I also did play, we did our whole Dead is Dead and just like role-playing in the world and exploring all the different quests there are, but I feel like the main quest, it's been so long now that, it's been 5 or 6 years almost, and I never did complete the expansions or really play much of them, that I'm ready to experience the whole thing over again, because I kind of remember the story, a little bit, but hardly. And it's so much for me to just get nostalgia trip and remember, the whole what was Skyrim all about.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'm really excited for that. But I'm going probably PSVR over the Switch one. But I might get both too. I don't know. I've bought Skyrim probably like 3 times now. It's my favorite game I think of all time, and I don't know, maybe when it goes on sale or something one day I'll get it for like a physical on Switch. I'm
debating that altogether because I'm getting really back into PC gaming and enjoying having a powerful PC. Like it's been a while since I've had one. Like even when I had a gaming PC back in 2011, it was kind of right on the teetering point where a game like Skyrim at ultra settings was a little too powerful. And so I never really got to experience it in its full glory. And so with mods and all that, maybe just with the hype of Skyrim because of the Switch and VR, let's go back to the one I actually already own. But
and you get that free upgrade. I don't know if you know that, but I need
to figure out how to get that downloaded.
I got it. It's really simple to do. I'll tell you about it later. But it's free upgrade to high definition, and you really need to experience Skyrim with like epic mods and stuff enabled, because that really made it.
Well, when I did a show called Jesus of Skyrim. For those of you that don't know, I believe it's actually hidden now on my YouTube. I kind of cleaned up my YouTube a little bit and made stuff kind of tucked away. But I did this series called Jesus of Skyrim, where I didn't basically essentially playing the game as Jesus, where I don't kill anyone, don't lie, don't steal anything. I died by the time I got to the north, because Skyrim's a dangerous place to be with morals. And that one I did 60 frames per second, high definition. Every town had flowers all over the place. I did mod that one up quite a bit, but yeah. So.
Hopefully they come to Switch. Hopefully mods, at least on some capacity, like maybe a limit or something. You can have 3 mods enacted or something.
Ooh, another quick thing to say, because Bethesda rocked it this year. Every game they announced was 2017. Literally not one game was beyond 2017. Another great thing they did was, I thought, and I want to give this a shout out because people are hating on it on the internet, is the Creation Club. Which hopefully we do see, like you mentioned, mods on the Switch. Hopefully we see something like that on the Switch, because what Creation Club is, for those of you that didn't maybe tune into the Bethesda show, what you should, because they're being very good supporters of Nintendo, the Creation Club is essentially mods that have been curated by Bethesda or created flat out by Bethesda, and they're paid with a crown currency or something like that. And I know what you're wondering, or I know what you're thinking. Like, I don't want to pay for no mods. The whole point is mods are free, created by the users and all that. But the nice thing is that because they're curated and because they've kind of got the comb of Bethesda going through them, they're guaranteed to not break your game, not corrupt your save, and also not disable achievements and trophies, or anything along those lines.
That's the biggest one for me. I think
the biggest one for me is that it doesn't break it, because I've had so many times where I've got a mod where I go to do a quest and it's like, oh, I can't do this entire quest line because my dragons, in Skyrim can do backflips and do these crazy things, and this quest doesn't.
Well,
I've had.
I think
moments
those
like
are
that.
pretty well tested. Like if you actually read the comments and check the rating and everything, those are pretty well curated. I think automatically by the modding community, unless you're going for a more obscure title of a mod or something. But
maybe,
I thought that maybe the big backlash. I'm not totally sure of the whole story and background and everything. I know that Take-Two is under a lot of fire right now. I don't know if you've been following that at all, but they disabled or shut down the Grand Theft Auto modding community, and people are really upset. It's actually hurt their Steam score so much that Grand Theft Auto has gone down to mixed reviews when it was like really positive. And now it's like mostly negative for their most recent, but overall it's gone to mixed because people are really upset about that. And I'm not sure if with Bethesda's case, if they've actually, what I'd heard some people saying was that they'd actually used some stolen mods that they're using to promote in the sale, like people that have stolen assets from other creators, and there's some shady stuff going on where some things are maybe slipping through that shouldn't be, and people are feeling kind of ripped off, or there's a controversy going on here, and I don't want to say that I'm fully, I don't understand it completely, so I don't want to say I'm fully supportive of this or not supportive of it. I think there's definitely some cool things to it. Like I really love the fact that the achievements are still enabled. I think that if there's a way that they could do that for mods, that's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I really want them, hopefully it's some ethical way, or hopefully they can resolve what these issues are, and I'll definitely have to look more into that, and maybe everybody should. Maybe there's an article out about it, but something about like this recent, a few companies have done some interesting steps towards mods that the community is not taking favorably to.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see moving forward how we talk about, like stuff like this on our Nintendo show, because Nintendo's kind of entering this sort of, they're getting these games and they're getting support from these companies that, have these kind of deeper gaming issues that we haven't really talked about on, Koppai. It's kind of just always been fun and games with Nintendo, and it'll be interesting, like with Rocket League and Minecraft, we're getting cross-network play. So there's this whole open discussion now of bringing PlayStation in and how PlayStation's saying no to cross-network play. We have a game like Skyrim coming, which is a super old game, but is from a company and a publisher and a developer right now that's super relevant, that hasn't supported Nintendo before. So it's just like really interesting to be in this time of like talking about Mario alongside Skyrim in one show, and it's all completely relevant. So leave your comments down below. I'm very curious if you guys are listening. If you're listening to like the audio version, tweet at us at Koppai Gaming. Let us know I'm very curious if anyone has never played Skyrim before and they're playing it on the Nintendo Switch for the first time. Just because I would love to just hear about that experience. Like how insane would that be to be playing Skyrim on the Switch and that's your first time playing it? Like I feel like that'd be like, I would almost wish I could have experienced it that way. Like I feel like that'd just be so awesome. And so kind of numb to the game now because of how much I've played it. But
yeah, definitely.
But anyway, let's unclog the Nintendo pipeline. I wish there was more and more stuff I could say about every single conference. I could talk about the Spider-Man thing. Days Gone looks hype. But I think it's all safe to say it was a very good E3. Nintendo, by our opinion and by the numbers, quote, won E3. They just dominated in every single regard, especially with Super Mario Odyssey, which we'll be talking about today. And that's all we have to say about that. If you want to hear our individual thoughts on it, maybe just tweet at us and be like, yo, what'd you think about this? We'll respond at ZachRisk, at KazRisk on Twitter. But as I was saying, let's unclog the Nintendo pipeline. Each week, we dive deep into Nintendo's pipes to find out what's happening in the world of Mario and friends. And this week, we have 8 pipe plug-in news bits that need to be dealt with number 1 being Super Mario Odyssey was the second most viewed trailer during E3, with Star Wars Battlefront winning E3 with the most views of any title. And this includes all videos related to the title, including trailers, official gameplay, coverage, fan-uploaded reactions. And so they're being very gracious here, E3 statistics. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 was both the number 1 most viewed trailer, but Super Mario Odyssey came in second place in the trailer battle with 5.5 million views. It's one of the last titles to be announced at E3. It's ranking even more impressive. I mean, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was Saturday, Mario Odyssey was Tuesday, so it had quite a lead. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mario Odyssey ends up surpassing it, maybe. But then again, it is Star Wars, so
I mean, yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. It's Star Wars. It has not even the gaming world, but people that don't even care about video games are gonna be checking out what they said about Star Wars, because it's such a worldwide phenomenon. And Mario is too, but let's be honest. I mean, it's Star Wars, so I mean that is just it's larger than life on a different scale, I'd say. But I mean, to compete with Star Wars on that level is really insanely impressive. And I'm actually almost slightly surprised. I mean, like we were saying, it's Star Wars, but Odyssey had a lot of people talking about it. I would almost say I saw more, like, maybe in the worldwide statistics. You were saying they were kind of generous about some of these numbers. Like, from what the buzz I saw, it seemed more people were discussing Odyssey and Nintendo than Star Wars overall.
Definitely.
But
at least in the
and
E3
even
culture.
Spider-Man, like I was seeing actually more
I was
people
gonna say
talking
that
about Spider-Man than Star Wars. But I just think that it's that fact that people from everywhere tuned in for just a minute to see what they announced about Star Wars and get hyped for that. And it looks beautiful too. I can't knock it for that. So I'm hyped for that game.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think that overall, I think Mario will be I think we can say definitively Mario will be a longer lasting title in terms of, like Battlefront 2 for PSP and I think, I don't know, whatever systems it was before. Those are dated games now, and the Battlefront games, once Battlefront 3 comes out, nobody's going to care about Battlefront 2 anymore. But Sunshine, or I don't know what it's Sunshine, Odyssey is going to be going in as a timeless Mario title for the rest of gaming history. So I think that in terms of impact, Odyssey is way bigger for the gaming industry.
It's huge. And I was going to echo what you said. I'm surprised Spider-Man didn't get more attention than it did, especially with the push that Sony gave it as being kind of like the main thing of the show. And I think it just underwhelmed people. I think it was too quick time heavy. And I get they were trying to show it was gameplay, but I think it was way, like, we were talking privately, just like, I think maybe while playing ARMS or something, just show the open world, like, show what you can do, like, show running around. Like, that was a nice thing they had about Zelda last year and Mario this year, is they just really show the game, like, just the gameplay and the fun of it freely, like, not in a demo setting or anything like that. Like, they're just letting the game speak for itself. And so anyway.
Yeah, I thought Spider-Man was shown in it seemed too controlled.
Yep.
It seemed like so. They were going through a very, I don't know what they're called, like the cuts they do for E3, but it seemed so planned that it made it even more quick time eventy than maybe even necessarily was, because they were on such a strict mission and everything, that if they would have just, like we were talking, had him perched up on his little tower that he always rests on or whatever and looking over the city and just said, this is what we can do, this is kind of their Fallout Zelda open world reveal, I thought that would have been more effective. But
like a great plateau of Spider-Man, like the Bronx, like, just explore anywhere you want here and just, like, give it to people on the floor. Like, you can explore anywhere in this part. But maybe that's a testament to how far out the game is. Like, maybe, although when they did the Zelda E3, the game was still almost a year out. So it's crazy.
Well, the thing is with Spider-Man, I'm sure it's open world. There's no way it's
it is.
Because I played the last one and it was open world and it was pretty good, and I think this one is going to be a lot better than that one, so I'm pretty excited for that, just because I enjoyed the last one. I think this will be better.
And I'm hearing from people that played Sunset Overdrive that it's looking a lot like that game. Because these are the same people that made Sunset Overdrive and I believe Ratchet and Clank. And so, should have a little bit of that. But, I mean, it's not going to be a great game. Just a very, very, I think, bad presentation of it. But you win some, you lose some. Number 2, it seems doubtful that cloud saves will be coming to Nintendo Switch anytime soon. Reggie Fils-Aimé said, I can't say there's a solution coming, but we do hear the message. So, basically, it's not even close to being started. If his only response is we do hear the message. Like,
I would assume that maybe by their online service they'll have something, because then it's more of a premium thing. It's kind of like, I believe that PlayStation Plus is you only get it when you're a Plus, and then you're kind of off no access once it expires. I could imagine, because it probably takes some sort of overhaul of their online system to set aside some space for a whole bunch of cloud saves. And I don't know, the file size of some of them I think is like 200 megabytes per game. I thought, like, the default size that a save file takes up on the system. So they'd be filling a lot of data on their server, especially as the Switch sells a whole bunch. So they're gonna really have to think about how they'll handle that, because it's probably a big thing to take in, especially when you're a company that doesn't really specialize in that whole online. I think that Microsoft and Sony are in kind of a special place with that.
Especially Microsoft,
Yeah, but even Sony, with how much they're into just other electronics in general, it seems they have maybe a better access into that kind of realm. But Nintendo is just over there in Japan trying to figure things out. But
it just sucks with a game like Zelda, where you're just pouring hundreds of hours into it. It's just like, you got to get these cloud saves going, like or an ability to back up the saves.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. On your drive, your SD card or something, and then plug it into your computer and have a backup somewhere. That's all you really need. But.
Yeah, they should have asked that question. Why haven't they asked Reggie that? But actually, Reggie had a lot of good interviews. I think there's one by Kotaku that's really good about the kind of state of Nintendo Switch and games moving forward. And I believe it was Jason Schreier, or no, maybe it was Stephen Totillo, I believe is his name, like the editor-in-chief over there. He had a really good interview with him and jumped into the comments to talk to some people about kind of some bonus questions, and really gave a good insight on kind of interviewing Reggie and what that process is like. Of, Reggie apparently never really answers a question with an announcement of any sorts. Like, he always phrases an answer in such a way of it's pretty much already been announced. Like, it's just kind of repeating out an answer that's already been in PR. And so, like, Steven was saying how he interviews Reggie more so about the state of Nintendo and the mindset of Nintendo rather than pure announcements. Like, hey, are you guys making Metroid? Because Reggie, if they have an announcement, he'll, we're making Metroid 4. We're super happy for it. We're excited to please the Metroid fans. But he's saying, like, Steven says that it's better to ask questions of, like, is Mario Kart 8 the mainline Mario Kart game for Switch? Because then it's not a question about, are you guys making Mario Kart 9? It's, is this considered internally to be the main Mario Kart game? And Reggie can then answer, oh yeah, we're marketing this as if it's the main Mario game right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
So it's a good interview piece that we can't really talk about now, but go check that out if you can. Moving forward, number 3, Rabid Peach now has her own official Instagram account. One of the stars of this week's E3 event in Los Angeles was Rabid Peach. Rabid Peach from the upcoming Nintendo Switch title, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And so they've acknowledged that the character is worthy of an Instagram account, so you can go find a bunch of selfies and glamorous shots over on Rabid Peach Instagram account. I saw one of them was quite glamorous. And I think I just want to make a quick note that, man, that game looks good. Blew my expectations out of the water. And so the game's only about a month or 2 away, so we'll talk about it more closer to launch, but they rocked it. And we talked about it on Tuesday.
The XCOM developer guy, too, who created the game, said that he really liked and was honored that they used his kind of gameplay style that they sort of developed, I guess. I've never really been too familiar with those games, but I guess the term half cover and stuff is like directly pulled from the XCOM games, and he was really charmed to hear that and said that he's really excited to play it with his daughter and get her as a way to introduce her to his series through Mario.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my. It became one of my most hyped games of the year. So, after being what I
Definitely.
thought was
That
a joke.
I know, and I thought it was gonna probably turn out like some almost mobile title looking thing,
No.
and it ended up turning into like a full, really interesting looking game experience. So,
Yeah.
and it actually got me interested in Rayman a little bit more, and the whole rabbits thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like kind of like a Minions of sort.
Yeah.
Moving forward, number 4, Pokemon Switch will be a traditional find, battle, and train experience. In case you were kind of maybe doubtful that maybe it was going to be like a mystery dungeon sort of thing, I think it was pretty clear that the game was going to be like a mainline Pokemon game. But then they went ahead and announced, like, what was it? The Reggie quote: "Metroid Prime 4 will be a first-person adventure, and Pokemon RPG will be a traditional find, battle, train type experience." So
Yeah.
the games are going to be what you would expect out of them. So
Yeah, I think people were a little bit just still. They wanted a little more clarity because they were worried about what it was, like Gale of Darkness or whatever those kinds of GameCube. Temporarily, they came out with a line of RPG Pokemon games where you did collect a few Pokemon and do some battles, but it was not what people really wanted, and they were okay. I watched a few reviews of them or something once, and they were saying like, oh, they're not horrible games, but definitely not what people wanted. And I think people are still a little concerned that they're going to pull something like that, especially when right afterwards, when the announcement was made, the guy who was talking said, "I can't wait to find out like what kind of Pokemon game you guys will develop." And it's like, what kind? Like, we know what kind. We've told you what kind we want. Like, this is what we want. So make sure it is the mainline real Pokemon game. You said it. You said it with your like.
I think it's safe that it's going to be.
Yeah, I think so.
Pokemon.
I think so. But I can see why people, and even I'm like, it's hard to believe that it's actually real. Like, I'm still kind of in a state of shock about it. That we're going to actually get a Pokemon game on the console finally. That I remember on the N64, we were like desperately wanting a Pokemon RPG game. Yeah. And now we're actually getting it. It's almost like it's too good to be true, sounding. And once it comes, it's going to be like, I might break down into tears or something as I'm plugging it in.
What sucks is we don't really know. Like, I think we guessed that's a 2019 game. We just don't know when we're going to hear any more details about it. Like, it probably won't be until 2019 that we see a trailer for it. And that's the part that sucks. Like, I wish we could be like, okay, next year at E3 we can look forward to that. But Pokemon plays by their own rules. We just have no idea. So,
well, what I'm really holding out for, hoping that they do some like Ultra Moon, Ultra Sun port to the Switch eventually, like Stars or something, actually does come, but more of a year out to hold us over until the new actual Pokemon game comes.
Or virtual console,
really,
something. Give me something.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a huge possibility, but I do think there's a slight possibility that will happen. Because the one reason I think it's kind of less of a possibility is because of the whole bank and all that infrastructure. They still, if they're going to be just rolling out online. But, I mean, if they announce it and say it's coming in December of 2018 or something, a port, there's Stars to hold us over for the next year, they could do something like that, possibly have it ready.
Yeah, maybe.
But we're probably a bit of a ways out from from the core Pokemon game. But I do think, we seem to be getting, I don't know what the timeline is exactly on the Pokemon and then remake and then the third edition. It seems it's pretty quick, almost yearly, or at like biannually or something, that they do a new Pokemon game, something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so
I think 2019 is a safe bet.
But do you think would actually go that long with just Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun holding us over?
I think so. Yeah. I think with Pokken on the Switch, they kind of feel comfortable having a Pokemon presence there. Like, you can go to the store, and if you're a Pokemon fan and you have a Switch, you have something. And I think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is their other way of kind of releasing another Pokemon game on the 3DS without releasing another one on the 3DS. Yeah. And then I think, I think all of their focus, all of their priority then would be on Pokemon Switch, whatever that is. But.
And I guess I meant biennial. Not biannual. biennials every 2 years, which is about, it seems, when they release kind of the next.
I actually thought of that when you said it. I was like, I don't think he said that right, but I'm just gonna keep going because people knew what you meant. But maybe
they're often confused. It says
maybe someone was like, "Wait a second."
Yeah, twice a year.
Mr. Koppai thinks there's 2 Pokemon games a year.
Yeah,
he's an idiot.
Well, I am that.
Moving forward, number 5. This is a quickie one. Reggie on fun made a comment on fun over processing power with the quote: "Our 2 competitors, Microsoft and Sony, believe that it's all about processing power and beautiful graphics. Candidly, Nintendo believes in fun. Our technology is a small part of what we deliver." Which I thought was kind of an unnecessary quote from him. I was like, dude, come on. Like, are you saying that Microsoft and Sony don't focus on fun? Like, they're doing both. But he does have a good point also. Like, and we even learned from this E3 that, Microsoft announced a new Xbox. Sony, focused on the power of 4K gaming and all this other stuff. And Nintendo won with Mario. Like we were talking earlier. But I just think quotes like this kind of can sometimes rub me the wrong way. It's like, I get what you have to say as the president of Nintendo. Like, you have to say stuff like that when people are asking you, like, why don't you have a 4K processor? And it's like, look, this is where our focus is. But I feel like you can say that your focus is on fun without saying, with our competitors, it's all about this. Like, implying that they don't also focus on fun. Like,
well, and I also think it feels a little bit low, slightly, at least, like, with the whole love going on between Microsoft and Nintendo. At least Microsoft's way towards Nintendo, like Phil Spencer is constantly coming out and giving praise to the Switch, talking about how much he loves it. And then it seems like Nintendo have done a little bit of reciprocation on that, but not much. And it seems like it just kind of a low blow for Reggie to come out and say
Phil
that.
Spencer's like being interviewed. They're like, so you just announced a new Xbox. So what do you think about Mario? And Phil's like, I love Mario. I can't wait. I'm buying a copy for everyone in the office. Hey, Reggie, what do you think about Xbox? It's fine, but come on.
Yeah.
We're freaking Nintendo. And so it seems a little self-focused, but no, I mean, it's working for them, so. Number 6, Rocket League developers confirm, speaking of tech, 720 and 60 frames per second for the Nintendo Switch version. So they chose to opt for a lower resolution but higher frame rate. And the nice thing about that is, especially when you're playing on your cross-network play, it'll ensure that you have a smooth connection and a smooth gameplay experience. So when you're moving and the fluidity of your frame movement and the fluidity of your car movement will be the same as everyone else. So when you're doing cross-network play and especially multiplayer play, it's very crucial, I think, to have the similar frame rate instead of similar resolution. Like,
definitely.
You won't have a gameplay disadvantage.
And I'm one of those people that's still like, I don't know. I can definitely see like 4K when I go into the store and see a 4K screen displaying real 4K content. It's like, wow, that's really crisp. But I'm still somebody who 720p looks almost as good as 1080p to me. It's like,
I thought you were gonna say something about frame rate. I'm like, I know 30 and 60, but
oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
When I undock my Switch, and I think all games undocked are 720, aren't they? Like, isn't the screen of the Switch only 720?
Yeah, I think that's true. Yes.
Because I mean, I guess it is a smaller screen, but at that point, I can't tell at all. I would think it's still 1080. Like, it looks amazing.
Well, I thought for a while I had 720 on something that I was forced to do. One of my consoles. It might have been like my 360 or something, but I forget. But I just really couldn't tell hardly any difference, and I even upgraded it when I could eventually to 1080p or something, and it just really. Maybe it's slightly crisper, but I think it's almost
YouTube. Like, you click the YouTube button and you go from 720 to 1080. Like, I notice it gets like slightly sharper, maybe, but it's not like whoa,
Yeah. Well, there's some people that really just, I don't know, seem a little bit more, I don't know, like irked by that kind of thing. But I really have trouble telling the difference. I think that maybe it's from the jump from 720 to 1080 to 4K. It's more dramatic.
Yeah.
But from 720 to 1080, I think it's maybe quite not as dramatic, and I really don't mind at all. I probably won't really notice too much of a difference. Maybe it'll be like Mario Kart 8 or something, where on the Wii U it seemed maybe a little bit more jagged or something, like it was pushing up a resolution. But
Yeah.
on the Switch, it seems just a little bit more crisp and
Yeah.
beautiful. Like maybe it'll have that slight effect where it doesn't look quite as good as on the PS4 or something. But um, my big concern
But I'll be
with
laughing
Rocket
on the
League,
I'll be laughing on the plane, on a train, and on in the
yeah,
granary because I'll be
I think it's
playing.
going to look absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, the 720p thing doesn't really concern me. My only thing with Rocket League that I'm a bit concerned with, talked to somebody else on like the Nintendo voice chat forum about this,
Oh, is the
was
analog triggers.
the analog triggers, and how somebody brought up the good point that the PC, I mean, you're just using a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, it should be fine.
So it should be fine, and a lot of people play it that way. So we get it. We get it like that.
And you're
there's
using your
ways
boost all the
to
time anyway. You're using your rockets to kind of go from 0 to 100 and just seconds flat. Like,
Yeah, you're not usually trying to like maintain a steady 30 miles per hour or something. Like,
a low rumble through the field. It's usually either pedal to the metal or you want to stop the car. Like,
right.
And honestly, like Jeremy Dunham, he's done lots of interviews, with Podcast Beyond and PS I Love You XOXO, and he's done lots of PR and marketing for Rocket League. He's the guy that I believe is the creator of it, or just one of the head executives of it. He seems honestly like a guy that just loves gaming, seems to really just be humble with his company and just super happy that the game took off. It's one of those things that if they're developing it for the Switch, I just honestly just believe it'll work for the Switch. It'll be great. Like, I don't think they'd put their game out there if they're kind of like, oh, it doesn't work that well. Like, they would find a way to make it work, and so I trust them. Moving forward, we need some time to talk about Super Mario Odyssey, so I want to wrap this up quickly. But some concept art and details leaked for Super Mario Land Orlando. There's some more details on that you can find, pictures of it, but I want to give you guys a heads up that we are getting some details on the Florida version of Super Nintendo Land, so go check those out online. Number 8, ARMS came out on Friday, so let's take a very, very quick look at what the critics are saying. The game is currently sitting at a 77 on Metacritic with 54 positive reviews and 19 mixed reviews, 0 of the reviews being negative. Cheat Code Central gave it the highest score, and it was a perfect score, praising it as the Splatoon of fighting games. So what Splatoon is for first-person shooters, ARMS is for fighting games. They go on to describe it as easy to enter but tough to master gameplay. And then Cubed 3 gave it a lower score at 70, but praised the motion controls, which I found was interesting, saying that that's by far the best way to play, which I would disagree with. Another note is that The Verge writes that ARMS is great with a friend, but there's not much to do with it when you're on your own. I disagree with that as well. I don't think motion controls are the best, and I think you can play on your own just fine. Like, I think it's a great game to own, like, if you don't have like a consistent Switch buddy to play with. Like, the Grand Prix are awesome, the online mode's awesome. You'll be fine if you don't have like a couch co-op buddy to play with.
Definitely. The fact that you can save out of your Grand Prix and
Like
resume it later, it's perfect for that pick up and go sort of mentality that Nintendo's thrives at. So yeah, I really think the single player experience is just fine.
Yeah. Video Gamer gave it the lowest score at 50, saying that there's absolute anarchy when you throw in an extra body. So they actually disagree that co-op is the better way to play. I didn't get a chance to read their full review, but they just didn't seem just too fond of it overall. Some other more reputable sources, such as Nintendo Life, gave it a higher score of 90, saying it's a polished, addictive, immensely rewarding, and perhaps most important of all, a solid platform to create a popular and long-running series on the Nintendo Switch. Game Informer added that with a score of 83, ARMS is a zany fighter that delivers excitement and fun at every turn, and while they wish that there is more to do, what is included in the package is worthwhile. So if you're looking for a fresh and exciting gameplay experience on your Switch, ARMS is worth the look. And IGN kind of echoed that statement with an 8 out of 10 score, saying that it's clever, a clever take on boxing, but that its rapidly evolving lobby system is worth sticking around with for just one more match. But there may not be a lot worth unlocking right now, but hopefully they add that the planned free updates could give it some additional legs. Or that's funny, may give ARMS some additional legs. Well done. I wonder who wrote that. Jose, is that you? But I think that's an interesting note because a lot of people criticized Splatoon at first for being low content, and now it's beaming with content. And then
Max Brass.
Yeah, Polygon summed it all up with an 8 out of 10 score, saying that ARMS already feels like Nintendo's next great new franchise, which is crazy because people are saying the Switch is port, and that Nintendo is old IP, old IP, old IP. And here on the Switch, we have a fresh new exclusive game that's a brand new IP, is an awesome, great game on the IGN scale, and is here. It's out in the first few months. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know what's up with the whole, like, some people in the it's all old IP. Yeah, at every E3 when they reveal like that old franchise, that old IP that's like been dormant and they're rebooting, everybody's like, oh!
Or they announce Splatoon and they're like, wait, why doesn't Splatoon look like Mario? Like, why is Splatoon?
Yeah, what is this crap?
I hate the Inklings, and ARMS is like, wait, why isn't this Punch Out? You guys just should have made a Punch Out. And it's like,
exactly.
It's like, guys, you can't be happy.
I know.
And then to close out the Nintendo pipeline, I just wanted to take a quick look at an infographic Nintendo released. We're not going to pull this up on the screens for you guys if you're watching on YouTube, but we will just say that spring... essentially what the infographic is that Nintendo released was they said what games to expect in 2017, the ones that they're kind of majorly supporting. So this doesn't include indies, but spring is ARMS on the Switch and Ever Oasis on the 3DS. Then in the summer, we have Splatoon 2, Minecraft Realms, Mario Rabbids, and Sonic Mania on the Switch. And then Miitopia and Hey Pikmin on the 3DS. Then leading into the fall, we have Pokken Tournament DX, NBA 2K18, Fire Emblem Warriors, Just Dance 2018, FIFA 18, Super Mario Odyssey, and Lego Worlds on the Switch, and then Metroid Samus Returns, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, plus Bowser Minions, and I believe, what is that last game? Oh, Monster Hunter Stories on the 3DS, and in the winter ends out the year with Rocket League, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Skyrim, and Sonic Forces on the Switch, and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon on the 3DS. So it's safe to say that 2017, moving forward after E3 and all the announcements, is a heck of a year for the Switch. And still, if you weren't able to make the Switch and you still have your 3DS, you have quite a few games to keep you occupied. I mean, you have a new Pikmin, a new Metroid, a new Fire Emblem, and a new Pokemon, and a new Monster Hunter, all to look forward to. And
Ever Oasis looks pretty sweet, and there's a demo on the eShop too.
And Ever Oasis are some of the creators of the Zelda remakes, and so quality developers. And if you never played Mario and Luigi, that's an awesome game. So
I know I want to almost wait for it and do it on the 3DS because the remaster looks gorgeous. So yeah.
But with that, we can give a satisfying flush and watch the news swish and swoosh into oblivion. And now, real quick, before we end out the show, we went a little bit long with everything. We got really caught up in the weeds about Skyrim and mods and all that. But let's talk real quick about Super Mario Odyssey. It's the title of our episode, and we haven't got to it until 55 minutes in. But we kind of been talking about it throughout the whole show, so whatever. But it's our game of the show, I believe. I think it's your game of the show, isn't it? I would say so.
Yeah, it is definitely. You can't give it to Metroid because we didn't see anything. Mario Odyssey is the one that blew me away the most. It was like they did it again in terms of redefining Mario. You know, we always talk about what are they going to do next, especially after Galaxy and everything. It's what's the next step? Is it universe? Like, what is the gimmick or the mechanic that they can incorporate?
Or even I thought, like, okay, cool. My whole thing was they're returning to their roots, and it's kind of, 64, Sunshine, Odyssey. Like, that's the progression of things.
Right.
And that's kind of like, how do they keep that fresh? I guess it's a similar question of what's next. But it wasn't even so much what's the next gimmick. It was more so like, how do they make the 64 formula work in 2017? Like, how do they... Because that was the whole nice thing about Galaxy, was it kind of broke out of that. Like, I know people miss that open world hub exploration thing, but it was also kind of nice, especially for the Switch, to kind of just pick up, play a level, move forward. And even 3D World, I ended up really appreciating how the levels were so truncated and broken up, because it just made it so you could kind of just progress to the game and really focus in on one level for the collectibles. I'm like, how do they go back to that formula after we've kind of experienced some of the perks of the other one? And they did it. Like, it seems like a game that's just, with how easy it is to get the moons. Like the moons are all over. It's kind of like Korok seeds almost.
Yeah.
But also it's like taking Mario, turning the stars and the sprites and the shrines of the exploration games, turning those into Korok seeds, but making the puzzles to get to them like Zelda shrines, but immersing that all into a Mario Charming Kingdom world and making each different hub world a different kingdom. So you have the Mushroom Kingdom, but then the New Donk City Kingdom, or was it Urban Kingdom or something? Like they brought it all, like everything they've learned in the past 10 years, they brought it all together. And we have it here now, and like what's going to be the best Mario, it's going to seem perfect on the Switch. Like I can already tell that the collecting, the pick up and play nature of it, I can't wait. I mean, look at all the, I guess I got B-roll playing here. I got all the moons, just collecting all the moons, turning into a chain jump.
Yeah, what I thought was really impressive about just the whole, like, I thought mind-blowing about the mechanic was how it felt so perfect for Mario. Like that.
Yeah.
We need to go into the wires as a little electric Mario, and the way to solve puzzles that way. It's like, man, this is such a huge. It opens up the game to a whole new arena of ways to do different things, because it kind of just unleashes you, kind of in the way we were talking about how Breath of the Wild let you climb anything.
Yeah.
Just lets pretty much enter anything, and that's just such a huge evolution for the game. I think that moving forward they almost have to do something like this, because it's so it allows for such amazing gameplay experiences, it seems.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to the Zelda thing of like, Zelda was all about adventure, and Breath of the Wild brought that up to 11 by saying, okay, if you like to adventure in Zelda games, if that's what you define Zelda as, then let's make it so you can adventure literally anywhere. Like, you can climb anywhere, do anything. And if Mario was all about a combination of platforming and power-ups, like turning into a raccoon and turning into a cat, it's like, well, how do we one-up that? Oh, let's make literally everything a power-up. So Goomba's a power-up now. Koopa's a power-up now. Being a Boo is a power-up now. Being a Chain Chomp is a power-up now. Like, everything is a power-up, and the way they keep it balanced is by isolating those enemies only to certain areas, which then enhances the platforming side of things. Because that's always the question of, like, okay, you can climb everything in Zelda. How do you keep that balanced? And it's, this mountain's really tall, so you can't climb that mountain. Although you can try, and you can find different ways to do it. Like, or some areas are slippery, or some areas, you can't climb because of this reason. Like, they do find ways to bring it all together, but it's almost as if it's like we love the show Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. They'll do a crazy cliffhanger, and they'll do a crazy scene, and then they try to figure out, okay, crap, how do we get back on track now? Like, how do we write this character out of this problem? And Nintendo recently has seemed to be doing the same sort of thing of like, what happened if you could be any enemy? All right, okay, let's make that the gameplay hook. How do we balance around that now? And
well, I think that's been a winning formula for them for years and years, like almost since the beginning, as it seems with Miyamoto's genius and everything. It's been kind of one of his main philosophies is to kind of think of something that's fun first, or something that you would really want to do, and then make the game about it. Not like thinking about characters and like some story.
And how do you turn it into a game?
Right. Just thinking about the actual game first itself, like the core, what is the game and what do you want to do and what would make it actually really, really fun to play, and then make that game. And that's what Nintendo seems to do, and that's maybe why they've had such long-term success, is because they think of that first. And it's almost like with Splatoon and everything, and how we could have applied several different, Mario to it, or you could have made those characters basically anything, and you could have made the story anything you wanted. All that was important was that you're splattering and, covering turf with your colors or whatever it would be. So it's really an awesome thing about Nintendo. And I think, with Odyssey, yet again, with Mario, it's kind of like their flagship title. They always seem to make it like a 10 out of 10, just perfect. It's like they do with Zelda. They knock it out of the park every time, and they've done it again. And I can't believe that we're just months away from it. It's like finally almost here. What was crazy was we were on that Mario drought for a little while. It was like people got a little exhausted and were telling like no more Mario for a bit, and I was kind of bummed. Like 3D World was so awesome, I can't wait for our next Mario experience.
Yeah.
And so that's really awesome. We're finally getting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that they just announced it, literally just within a year. Like, it's announced
January
out.
basically was the first. I mean, I guess we saw it with what's her name, like Marie or Karen. Yeah, and yeah, she
She's
had
playing
it,
it,
but
took
we,
it to
we
the
saw
rooftop.
we saw such a small preview of it that people couldn't even entirely decipher it was if it was pre-rendered or what exactly it was, if it was like
Yeah.
some Mario title from way in the future that would totally change. And then later, I think it was Emily Rogers or something that said, actually, this game is like basically done and ready to go. And it was like, what? No, this is.
But she was also saying at the same time, though, she was like, yeah, Mario Odyssey's pretty much done, and there's also another Mario game where you play with rabbits, and it's a role-playing game. And we were like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you're drunk, Emily, go home. And then was right on the dot with so far everything. I want to go back and read her other Switch rumors now, because I'm like, what did you know? Like, it's crazy that she knew all that. And yeah, I mean, like you were saying, we were like, I think it was Game Explain was zooming in, and like they were the first to kind of see like, nah, this is a new area that we're in. Like, this is nothing from from 3D World or anything.
Yeah.
Like, this is a new game, but yeah, there was that question that you were asking, like, especially with how Wii U development went, where games like we got like a game a year. It was like, okay, well, if Zelda's the 2017 game, this must be the late 2018 game, But no, Nintendo's like, no, we have Zelda, ARMS, Splatoon, Mario, new Metroid, a new Fire Emblem, all within the first year. Like, don't worry about it.
Well, and I think people were really skeptical too, just with like Breath of the Wild and how much that got delayed. How many times they said, 2014, 2015, 2016, and the little E3, every E3, it was like a little preview, and then the next year it was coming out. And so I think a lot of people were really like, are they really going to be releasing Mario this year? Like, they say that, but kind of expecting, maybe they'll say, please understand, like, we're trying to make this an amazing Mario game, so it's going to take another year or something. But no, they actually are sticking to it, and it's actually coming out sooner than I think everybody anticipated.
I was thinking late November, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people I think were being a little like, we've heard that it's done, so we were expecting it to actually come out like in a month, but I don't know. It's like, I'm actually mind blown that it's actually hitting its target date. I was almost expecting a delay of sorts, but
yeah, no,
I'm really, really proud of Nintendo for actually, I mean, this first year, it's been an incredible. I was thinking about it and looking back at like what was released on the SNES year one and the N64 and all these consoles, and it really seems like this first year has been one of, if not the most support they've ever given a console ever in their history of releasing a new console. I know that the Wii U and stuff had a lot of kind of shovelware immediately. Like, I thought it launched with almost like 43 games or something.
Yeah.
I know that the Switch is coming out with, there's still like 81 or 80 plus games that are still coming out in the next year or so, including all like the indies and just random ports and all that. And that's not, they could still announce some things. So I do think that this system just seems to be getting the most support, at least that it's gotten. Nintendo's given a console in a really, really, really long time. Yeah. And I can't really think off the top of my head of when a system has come out with this many, at least core Nintendo first party and second party kind of produced games. It's usually just Zelda, Mario, and like, if that, usually it's Mario, but Zelda's year 2. And then, maybe there's like a Pilot Wings or something like that, or a Pac-Man collection that's not even from Nintendo, some third-party racing game.
It makes me wonder, like, what 2018 is going to be. Like, what are they, like, because surely we'll get, like, a fall direct that kind of says, okay, because Fire Emblem will probably lead off the year. I guess we do have Kirby. Like, that's crazy. Next year, 2018, then, we'll have a mainline Fire Emblem, a mainline Kirby, a mainline Yoshi, and that's just what we know so far. Then we'll most likely get maybe some details on the next Metroid, like just a teaser of some sorts. But maybe I'm wondering if development's going so quick for some of these games, like maybe we'll see Metroid kind of quick. Like, I know development just started,
Well,
but
and I was just thinking about that too. We've kind of talked about the prediction or idea. There's a high possibility Smash will be a major game next year if they bring the port over.
yeah,
or
like the
something
summer,
like that.
the big summer game.
Yeah, tournament or something. But I was thinking about, they don't really have, like this year it was Odyssey. Last year they had Zelda. But what do they have announced that could be the game of the show for next year besides Metroid, really?
Yeah.
Which they don't have a lot to probably show unless they are getting development along a lot quicker. Then they could make Metroid like their big highlight.
It is a new studio. It's
end.
not Retro Studios, so maybe
Yeah.
if it's more of an internal studio, maybe they could bust it out. And another thing I was going to actually say, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it till now, but you can hear my dog squeaking his little toy in the background. So proud of him. But another thing I was going to say is I've actually been editing it for my job. I'm a designer, like a graphic designer for my work. And this next week we have like tons of videos due for this kids event going on. And one of the videos I have to do is actually 8,000 pixels wide. It's super big because we need to be able to zoom in on it and get it so it's 1080p HD when we zoom into it. So it needs to be 8,000 overall as a composition file size. Anyway, all that to say, we're running into trouble right now because we're trying to save out and render the video into a compressed form for, YouTube, Vimeo to share with everyone. And it's taking tens and tens of hours to save just one video because it's like a 5-minute long video, but it's taking tens and tens of hours because it's 8K. And I'm wondering if Nintendo, to bring it all back together, if Nintendo's development time with the Switch is so quick because they've kind of stayed back in the 720, 1080, area when computers are now able to handle and render and, process 4K, 60 frames a second, crazy particle effects, these insane games coming out now. And I wonder if development time is getting really kind of slow and bogged down for these other companies and game developers. Because, someone like Assassin's Creed Origins, they have to make their game, make it look gorgeous, and they have to have a version ready to go and process and preview and demo that can do 4K 60 frames per second, which when they're doing playtesting, that must be a chore to save out a demo for that. But Nintendo, sticking with these lower resolutions that still look good because of art style, they're probably able to playtest and demo, and like they were saying with Zelda development, that they were able to save out a full game and play it for like a week straight just to playtest. I wonder if their development times are so quick, one, because they're kind of getting done with HD, or down the HD formula down after the Wii U era, but I also wonder if the technology now is just advanced so much, but they've stayed not so far behind, but behind enough that it's probably just like some simple buttons to hit to make it so it saves and loads, compared to competition of like, Ubisoft is trying to crank out an Assassin's Creed, a Crew game, and, Sony's trying to crank out their exclusives, but they're trying to go so extreme. I wonder if Nintendo is able to just be ahead of everyone because it's just like fast load times, fast save times, quick demos.
Well, and we've seen kind of how they've supported the 3DS for so many years, and we've seen the titles get just progressively better in terms of their graphics and how they can work with the old hardware to make some really impressive games, for such a old piece of hardware. And it seems I think that you're right in terms of they've got probably a development sort of software kit that they've been using, and they can keep perfecting on it. And as Nintendo does that over the life cycle of a console, they can really start to work out some impressive things once they really mature with it. And I think towards the end of the Wii U, we were really starting to see them do that with Super Mario Maker and Smash and Splatoon. I think that was more of wasn't that 2014 or something? It was towards more of the late kind of, not a little too late to save the system, but still it was kind of when they started hitting their stride was more, I felt, towards the end of the cycle. And so they're kind of just moving on, it seems, from that. Basically, the Switch is the Wii U, just a little bit more, brought to the modern age, refined. The UI is a lot more slick. Everything's just more streamlined. It seems basically the same kind of architecture they're using because we can see how easy it is for them to port. They also have more capabilities with the extra engines they can work with. It seems they have tweaked it a bit, upgraded themselves where they can at least have a more interface friendly environment for other developers, for third parties and indies. So that's a good sign. But I do think that Nintendo, I think, has probably been perfecting their more conservative development platform, like you say, since the Wii U, and then it's just maturing to a point where now at the Switch, I think that it's reached that point, the boiling point, basically, where now they have so much ready, it's almost they have too much ready that they have to hold back some announcements for next year and
definitely
think about how they have to pace some of this out because it's almost too much and the Switches are flying off the shelves too much. I think it's been a really big turnaround for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think I do think that they kind of flubbed with the Wii U in terms of not only the marketing, but not being fully understanding of the hardware yet until too late. Yeah. Like, it was a mix of both of those things and the third-party thing, but now it seems it's kind of reversed where they've got it all figured out where they don't really need the third parties as much, but the indies and everything are helping a ton, and third parties are turning their heads because of how successful they're doing. So they've reached this point where they can just develop a ton of games right off the bat and kind of save their system from the get-go, and then have all of these weapons like Pokemon to pull out of a hat and Animal Crossing down the line and Smash Port if they want. Like, they basically have the Wii U arsenal that they can port from that, and then they have Pokemon, and then they have whatever else they want to kind of come up with. They have some new IPs in the works, those kinds of things, Metroid. So like, they're on a roll with this system, and
E3 was just like was kind of getting the whole, like, they did a great job at making it so the whole world noticed, like, hey, we're back in the game now. Zelda did it last year, but now they're kind of like, the Switch is here to be a competitor, and we do have to wrap up the show. My dog's pacing by the door. We've gone over an hour.
Little puppy.
So, I got a little puppy this week. It was a crazy week. We had E3 week. Oh, poor guy. He's like really whimpering by the door. So we had E3 week, but I also got a new puppy. His name's Oliver. He's 4 months old. He's a beagle dachshund mix, and he's the most adorable thing. I'll have to tweet out a photo on the Koppai Twitter or something. But we do have to wrap it up. But that was a good discussion on Mario and the Switch, and it's super hype. I'm so happy to be doing Koppai podcast and one of the best times of Nintendo ever. But we do have to go. We'll be back next week to talk about maybe some more ARMS impressions, other news that pops up, and I think we also soon will have discussion on the Zelda DLC. So, some impressions.
That's going to be awesome. I've been playing Zelda again. I've been back in it, trying to finish it before this DLC comes out. So,
But anyway, we'll be back next week. But until next time, cool.